Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so glad you're here for another reading. As always, first off, I'm going to move this. Boop. A huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are amazing. If you would like to join my Patreon, there are links in the description. Joining my Patreon gets you access to specific rewards, as well as eventual discounts on merch once I get that up and running. I know I said August, but we'll see how that goes. But also, for you YouTube folks, I happen to be live on TikTok right now. So, those of you watching this in the future know that you're sharing this with people in the past, although the past is the present right now, but really time is a construct. I think my intros have been getting more and more off the rails, so I will just say, without any further ado, something important, a quick content warning for this episode. We're going to get a little dark. If you don't want spoilers, go ahead and mute your computer, or if you're not watching this live, skip ahead a little bit. But trigger warning for character deaths, guys. It gets a little dark here. But without any further ado, got the book, got the drink, and now let's get back into The Legend of Luke by Brian Jacques. Chapter 29. Also, before we start, I may have to, if TikTok gets weird, I might have to turn my attention to that. So, just so you know. Verg woke with a raging thirst. He got up quietly so as not to disturb his sleeping crewmates, and picked his way through the darkened cabin to the door. It was foggy on deck, silent and damp. Verg padded up to the galley, dipped a ladle into the water barrel, and drank deeply. A second measure of water he tipped over his head to awaken himself properly. He was about to start lighting the galley fire from last night's glowing embers so that Cardo would have a good fire to cook breakfast when he heard the sounds. It was like a steady drumbeat and a deep swishing noise, which grew louder by the moment. The noises seemed to be coming from somewhere farther up the channel. Verg made his way to the forepeak. Leaning out, he strained his eyes against the blanket of milky white mist. The sounds increased in volume, and the Sena began to bob gently up and down as on some kind of swell. That was when the world turned red. Towering over him like an immense leviathan, the Gorleech came thundering down upon the ship's Sena. Verg was flung high into the air and landed hard on a rock in the shallows, swallowed by the merciful blackness of unconsciousness. A horrendous rending of ship's timbers rent the air as the Gorleech plowed into the Sena, ripping the entire starboard side out from stem to stern. Masts fell before the wicked iron spike on the ship's prow, snapping off like dried twigs. Vilu Daskar roared with evil joy at the sound of screaming crew beasts in shock. Half stunned, Luke splashed about in the water. He grabbed a floating object for support. It was Cardo. The dead cook's eyes stared unseeingly into his until Cardo sank slowly beneath the channel. Luke came to life then. Bellowing like a creature possessed, he seized a rope trailing from the red ship's side and began hauling himself, paw over paw, up the Gorleech's massive hull. Soaked, bruised, and weaponless, the warrior climbed with the speed of fury, grappled his way over carved galleries, swarming over the heavy sea-wet mats of rope fenders. Vilu Daskar was just turning to shout further orders to his vermin crew when Luke came storming over the gallery rail. He was upon the pirate's stoat like a wolf, grabbing him about the neck. Both beasts crashed onto the deck. Luke's eyes filled with bloodlight as he throttled his mortal enemy. Vilu Daskar could do nothing against the warrior's furious strength. He saw crewbeasts dashing to his aid and managed a panic gurgle. Akla swung a belaying pin once, twice, thrice to the back of Luke's unprotected skull. Another two crashing blows laid the warrior mouse low, and Vilu Daskar slipped from his faltering grasp. Vermin Krubies rushed to the stout captain to his cabin, where he lay on a table making croaking sounds as they forced warmed wine between his lips. He reeled off the table, nursing his neck with a silken cloth.
We sink 'em.
Bullflay stared at Akla.
What did he say?
The ferret turned to Vilu.
Don't try to talk, sire. Just, your throat's damaged. We sunk her all right. Crew's just dragging aboard any mice that are still living.
Still clutching the silken cloth about his neck, Daskar staggered out on deck. Bullflay waddled ahead of him, drawing a cutlass and straddling the limp form of Luke.
There's the one what strangled you, Lord. Let's see if I can take his head off with one swipe.
Vilu kicked the slave master, sending him sprawling.
I want him alive.
The pirate's stoat tottered unsteadily back to his cabin. When the door slammed, Fleabit whispered to Grigg, "Talks awful funny, don't he?"
So would you if you'd been near throttled to death,
Grigg whispered back.
Better not let him hear you say that. He talks funny, or you wouldn't have a tongue to talk with at all.
Ugh. Doolam was chained to deck rings like the other of the Saina's crew who had survived the ramming. He dabbed gently at the back of Luke's head with his wet tunic, but it was some considerable time before the warrior began to stir and show signs of coming around. On his other side, Denno pressed Luke gently back to the deck.
Lie still, mate. You should be dead by rights, but the pound in your head took back there. I saw it as I was hauled aboard.
Luke lay still, eyes closed, head throbbing unmercifully.
What about our crew?
He felt Denno's tears drip onto his paw as he said,
There's only us three left, Luke. You, me, and Doolam.
Luke felt numb. He could hear his own voice echoing in his ears.
I saw Cardo, but Colin, Caudle, and the others.
Verg! Where's Verg? A sea boot thumped cruelly into his side. Bosun Parug stood over them, grinning.
Fish bait, the lot of 'em. Bit of a mistake, us hitting your ship so hard. Should have just sneaked up and burned it when we could have caught you one by one as you dived in the water.
He kicked Luke once more, obviously enjoying himself.
Ha! 3 miserable prisoners. It was hardly worth it. 3 mice! Ha! Maze. Well, we call it 2, 'cause Captain Villow's got special plans for you, bucko. I never knew a beast laid paws on Villu Daskar and lived to see the sun go down. I'd hate to be you, Mouse. Death'll come as a mercy to you when the captain finishes with you.
But Luke was hardly listening. He was consumed with grief and guilt over his slain crew. Mentally, he told himself that this was the second time he had lost dear ones by leaving them unguarded. It did not matter what happened to him now. There was just one thing he longed for ere death claimed him. One chance, just one opportunity to slay Villu Daskar. Twin Islands lay bright and still in the afternoon sunlight. The fog had gone. So had Villu Daskar and the Gorleech. Slowly, Verg became aware of a tickling sensation on his face. A tiny hermit crab, burdened by a periwinkle shell, was dragging itself across his cheek. He brushed it aside and sat up, wincing. From jaw to ear, his cheek was purple and swollen. Finding a pawful of cool, wet kelp, he bathed it gingerly as memory flooded back. The Saina, her crew, Luke, the red ship looming out of the fog. Verg leaped up, sloshing through the shallows. He climbed up on his ship's wrecked hull, looking desperately this way and that. Far off out to sea, sailing north by east, he saw the Gorleech plowing the main. Scrambling down into the wreckage, Verg ignored the splitting ache in his face and head and shouted aloud, "Luke! Caudle! Denno! Ahoy, mates! Anyone aboard? Cole Doolam, where are you?" Ripping away broken spars and dragging damp canvas out of his way, Verg forced an entrance into the shattered main cabin. Cole was there, pierced through by a splintered bulkhead spar, his body swaying gently in waist-deep seawater. Yelling in horror, Verg fled the cabin, flinging himself from the wrecked vessel onto the shore. Cardo was the second one he found, lodged under water beneath the prow. Verg sat on the warm sand, his head in both paws, sobbing uncontrollably. He was alone. All the friends he had sailed with from the Northland shore, gone, slain, or taken captive aboard the hated red ship. Sometime towards evening he fell asleep, stretched out above the tide line, numb with grief and aching all over. How long he lay there, Verg had no way of knowing. Other than that, it was dark when he opened his eyes, but that was not what had awakened him. Some beast was close by. Verg did not move. He lay fully alert now with his eyes half open, scanning the area around him. He heard noises, a damp scraping sound coming from behind the Seina's smashed stern. Verg rose until he was on all fours, carefully, silently making his way to the water's edge. Gritting his teeth with satisfaction, he found a broken spearhead with half the shaft still attached. Wading quietly into the water, he made his way along the Seina's hull to the stern. He saw a dark shape on the beach, scraping away at the sand with a chunk of flat wood. Grabbing the broken spear tightly, Verg sneaked up from behind and flung himself on the creature, yelling as he locked paw about its neck. "Yeah, you filthy murdering scum! I'll kill you stone dead!" However, killing the creature was not so easy. It lashed out with long hind legs, batted Verg hard with a chunk of wood, doubled up and sent him sailing over its head. Like a flash, his adversary was upon him, forcing his face down into the sand. A familiar voice rang in Verg's ears. "I say, steady on there, old lad. What? Verg managed to push his head up and shout, "Bo! It's me, Verg!" The hair rolled off him, pulled him upright, dusting sand away from his face. "Well, bless me, Paul, so it is. Why didn't you say so instead of pouncing on a chap like that? I didn't hurt you, did I?" Verg could not help himself. He hugged Bo and kissed both his cheeks soundly, weeping unashamedly. "Oh, Bo, I thought you were drowned long ago." The hare managed to extricate himself from the tearful crew mouse and held him off with both paws. "Well, if I wasn't drowned, then I soon would be, with you jolly well crying and weeping me all over, what?" Verg stood staring stupidly at Bo. "Then you weren't drowned when you fell overboard?" Bo could not resist striking a noble pose. "Drowned? Me, laddie? Pish, tosh, and fiddly what's it. Us Forthing Sulcos Fortinghams don't sink so easily, just 'cause some confounded storm chucked me in the briny, and not for the first time, let me remark. Well, says I to myself, let blinkin' Ma Nature use other fools as fish food, not me, sir. So I struck out for the old terra firma, and stabbed me victuals if I didn't land at Twin Islands. Had to live on the far side, of course. Pesky little insects on this one would eat a body alive if you let 'em. What?" Immensely cheered by the fact that he was no longer alone, Verg smiled and clasped his friend's paw firmly. "But you're alive. That's the main thing." The irrepressible hare winked fondly at Verg. "Pretty much alive, apart from having me paw squashed by some hulking great mouse. Righto, companion of mine, come on. We'll cross the channel onto my island and have a bite to eat whilst we swap yarns. How's it suit you, old mouse chap?" Verg released Bo's paw and turned away. "There's something I've got to do first. Me shipmates." Bo sniffed. One of his long ears flopped down to wipe an eye before he answered. "Say no more, friend. I buried them myself while you were sleeping. Just finished the job when you sneaked up and tried to play piggyback with me, what? Don't fret, old fellow. I've put the Seina's crew to rest in the shadow of their own ship." Together they waded into the channel. However, Verg still had a question to ask. "Was the whole crew slain, Bo?" "Sadly, most of 'em were, Verg, though I never found Luke or, what's his name, and the other chap, Doolam and Denno. Awesome. Which means they were certainly taken for slaves aboard the foul vessel Gorleech. So all in all, there's 4 of the old gang left. 5, counting yours truly. Hang tight to my paw now. Gets rather deep here. We'll have to jolly well swim for it, what? Chin up, strike out." When they reached the far island, it was quite a climb to Bo's den. He had made it over the far side of the hill, facing out to open sea. Because of this, Bo had not known about either the Gorleech or the Seina until it was too late. But as Verg realized, there was little he could have done anyway against the red ship's crew. The den was a small cave halfway down the big hill. Bo had made it comfortable and foraged around the island to provide food. Kindling a fire, he put dandelion tea on and produced a meal with his own gatherings and a few things they had managed to salvage from the Seina's galley. Warming himself by the fire, Verg allowed Bo to inspect his wounds.
Oh, that's a rather attractive shade of purple on your face there, old thing. Have to make a compound to take out the pain and swelling. Cheer up, Verg. It'll be a good day, and you'll be as good as new in a day or two, my old nautical matey.
Verg heaved a sigh and gazed out to sea. What do we do then, Bo? The hare sliced himself a wedge of fruitcake from the Sana stores, adding it to his plate of island salad.
What do we do then? Why, we sit here and chunner whilst we grow old together like two proper desert isle hermits, my friend. And if you think that, you're a nincompoop. Do? I'll tell you what we're going to do, laddie buck. Make a boat from the wreckage of our ship Sana and sail after the red ship. Rescue our friends, and if we get a bally chance, we're going to put paid to that evil blackguard who calls himself a captain. Disgrace to the blinking rank, right?
Verg locked paws with his friend.
Right, Bo. And the sooner we get started, the better, mate.
And that is where we're going to end tonight's reading. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. To all the folks on TikTok watching, thank you also for joining me. Huge thank you again to my patrons. You guys are amazing. If you would like to join them, there are links in the description. For the TikTok folk, they are in my bio. If you would like to join, you can do that. And yeah, that is it. Thank you guys so much. We are coming down the home stretch for this book. Thank you so much for sticking with me. If you're just tuning in for this one, I happen to have the rest of the book in this playlist, so you can go back and watch from the beginning. But with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good week. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. Bye, guys.